Welcome to the worship service of the First Unitarian Church of Hobart. My name is Barb Langle, and I participate in the life of the church by being on the board of trustees, among other things. We are a religious community of people with diverse beliefs and shared values. Our diverse beliefs are expressed in our 6 sources, and our shared values are expressed in our 7 principles. Both can be found online at uua.org. Together, we strive to grow spiritually, build community, and live our values in the world. I have a couple announcements. The first one, please listen, this is important. Our Thanksgiving dinner and raffle auction will be on Sunday, November 20th. The fundraising ministry is asking for donations for the raffle and bigger things for the auction. Also, there is a sign-up list by the coffee machine for everybody to bring a side dish or dessert and how many people are coming. The sooner you do this, the better we will have to get it prepared and know how many are coming and what is being brought. The church does have the turkey and ham. Michelle has
Hello. So Faith in Action is our church is involved with several other churches with Sharing the Harvest again this year. So Sharing the Harvest is, we work with the People's Turkey Drive. They like to collect bags with like a complete turkey dinner in it for people in need in the community. So we have a table in the parish hall where if someone wants to bring in bags to donate to this, you can put them on the table. We have, did you make the list? Yeah. Barb made little lists and set them out there if you want to grab a list. I did do mine yesterday, and it is about $40 a bag because it also includes a $20 gift card or $20 bill for the turkey. So if you want to just donate money, that would be fine. You could contact me or gift cards, or if you want to get together with one other person or 3 other people and do a bag. And the foil roasting pan is optional. And then on the 19th, so not this Saturday, but the Saturday following, the in-gathering meal where all the congregations will get together and have a meal together, and we'll bring all these bags together and donate them to the People's Turkey Drive. It will be at Pastor Leah's church, which is right over here by the police station at Methodist Church in Hobart. It's from 11 to 1. And that's the 19th, and our congregation has been invited to donate desserts for that. So anybody in the congregation is invited to come to that meal. You don't have to donate a bag to come to the meal, but if you would like to bring a dessert, just contact me, let me know what you'd like to bring, and we hope to see everybody there. Thanks.
Today, our service will be a little bit different than usual. We are honoring the dead and welcoming in the new. So it won't be a regular follow your order of service. We are currently streaming our services online. The joys and sorrows portion of our service, however, is private and will take a break from streaming during that portion. Other than that, the service will be recorded and will be available for future viewing on Facebook, YouTube, and the church website. Wearing masks right now is optional, but if you are ill or you think you have had contact with anyone who is ill, please attend virtually. Please let your Facebook and Twitter friends know that you are attending worship with hashtag First Unitarian Hobart. And now please silence your devices, take a deep breath, and another, and join us in the spirit of reverence.
to, this is lighting our chalice, right? Flying loose here. Join us in lighting the chalice. The words are printed in your order of service or on the laminated cards in front of you. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Please rise and body your spirit for our doxology. The ordinary order of service.
Please be seated. Each week we take some time to share in the joys or sorrows or milestones that we are carrying in our hearts, either from our own lives, our own intimate experience, or from the life of the whole of creation. So I'd like to invite anybody to share those with us. I will come around with the microphone. I'll hold the mic up for you. And I just ask that you share your name with us so that we know who you are. Yes. that still resides in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, knowing that it is still present, it is still a part of us, it is still part of what we are weaving together. Thank you. So together, today, we honor the dying and the dead. Nature speaks to us of this passing. As the earth tilts farther away from the sun, the light in our hemisphere is steadily waning, a diminishment made even more dramatic in some places with the end of daylight savings time. And this place is one of those places. The leaves, once shimmering green, then gold in sunlight, now fall to the cooling earth, where they will soon become as brittle as the bones of elders. Grass and gardens have hunkered down for the winter, turning their energy downward and inward. Yet before this final loss, there is a blaze of color, one last burst of accomplishment, one final hymn of praise to the fullness of life that is about to dwindle.
O sacred season of autumn, be my teacher, for I wish to learn the virtue of contentment as I gaze upon your full-colored beauty. I sense all about you an at-homeness with the amber riches. You are the season of retirement, of full barns and harvested lands. The cycle of growth has ceased, and the busy work of giving life is now completed. I sense in you no regrets. You've lived a full life. I live in a society that is ever restless, always eager for more mountains to climb, seeking happiness through more and more possessions. As a child of my culture, I am seldom truly at peace with what I have. Teach me to take stock of what I have given and received. May I know that it's enough, that my striving can cease in the abundance of God's grace. May I know the contentment that allows the totality of my energies to come to full flower. May I know that, like you, I am rich beyond measure. As you, O autumn, take pleasure in your great bounty, let me also take delight in the abundance of the simple things of life, which are the true sources of joy. With the golden glow of peaceful contentment, may I truly appreciate this autumn day.
Please open your gray hymnals to number 52 and rise in body or spirit and join in singing.
seated. For many ancient peoples, the final harvest, the end of the agricultural and pastoral year, also marked the end of the calendar year. At this time, they acknowledged the end of the cycle of the earth's seasons and gave thanks for its gifts. Often, this was also a time to acknowledge the human lives that had come to an end and to give thanks for their gifts.
Some Celtic peoples celebrated Samhain on October 31st and November 1st. The last of the crops were harvested, and the flocks and herds returned from summer pastures to home pens. It was the end of the warm half of the year that began at Beltane on May 1st, and the beginning of the cold half. In Ireland, it marked the official start of winter. Some scholars say it was also a feast of the dead, whose spirits returned to their hearths on the night of Samhain Eve to visit their families.
The ancient Finns celebrated their new year and honored their dead at the November 1st Feast of Kekri.
Much older even is the Babylonian Sacred Mound Festival, another harvest feast honoring the dead.
Ancient Egyptians honored their dead at the November festival of Isis and Osiris.
The Christian church had, from early on, honored its dead, especially those martyred by Roman emperors. By the middle of the 9th century, the Feast of All Hallows, or All Saints, was observed by Christians all over Europe on November 1st. 3 centuries later, the Feast of All Souls, those souls believed to be in purgatory, was officially established as November 2nd.
On these 2 days, people in Latin American countries celebrate the Day of the Dead, a fusion of Catholic and Mexican Indian traditions.
Buddhists and Taoists around the world celebrate Ulambana, originally a harvest feast. It is popularly known as Festival of the Hungry Ghosts.
Hindus observe Diwali, the festival of lights at this time of year to welcome the winter. It is celebrated as the New Year in northern India, but in Bengal, it honors the death-bringing goddess Kali.
Wiccans today still celebrate Samhain, lighting a hearth fire to welcome the cold season and the remembered spirits of their beloved dead.
It's the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass, but the circle of life remains. It's the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass, but the circle of life remains. It's the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass, but the circle of life remains. It's the blood of the ancients that runs through our veins, and the forms pass,
Fire has always been an important piece of festivals honoring the dead. Whether bonfires or hearth fires or sauna fires, whether candles or oil lamps, torches or lanterns, their light was a symbol of honor accorded the dead or deities of the dead. It provided illumination for the ancestors to find their way to their former homes and guided their spirits away when the visit was over.
We light these candles of remembrance now, so that our beloved dead may find their way to our hearts, that we may be open to the wisdom and messages of hope and love that they would offer us if only we would listen and heed.
We light this candle to beckon our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, all the ancestors to whose love and care and sacrifices we owe our very existence.
We light this candle for other family members who have gone before us, spouses, partners, children, siblings, aunts and uncles, cousins, nephews and nieces, and give thanks for the richness and love they provided in our lives.
We light this candle for members of our community who have died this year, in thanksgiving for the contributions they made to our community.
We light this candle for ancestors of another kind, for those who have given life to our minds, for teachers, mentors, writers, and sages, for scientists and artists who imparted knowledge and wisdom that outlives their earthly existence.
We light this candle for our spiritual ancestors, for all those who have taught us the values by which we live, who have given us confidence in our own spiritual worth and the worth of every creature.
I cannot think of the master walk with me no more. Along the path of life I tread, they are but gone before. They are but gone before. And still their silent ministry within my heart has place, as when on earth they walked with me and met mine that they to me have been, has left henceforth its seal and sign engraven deep within, engraven deep within.
In times past, one of the most famous customs of All Souls' Day was the ringing of church bells to comfort the departed spirits. Perhaps they also provided a comfort to the living, signaling that attention must be paid both to the lives of those who have gone before, passing down their gifts of hope and love, and to our own lives, so that when it is our turn, we too might leave a legacy of love. We now call the names of our beloved dead and invite you to respond after each set of 5 names. When we read each 5th name, I'll invite you to join in unison, "What is remembered lives. What is remembered lives." And then after the litany of names, the ringing of bells will invite us to a few moments of meditation. So I'll invite Patricia to join me in reading off some names. I'll read off the first set of 5. We'll repeat together, "What is remembered lives," and then Patricia will do the next set of 5. Ron, Boyd, Joe Langle, Tanya and Beth. What is remembered lives.
Linda, Harlow, Stan, Olga, Lynn.
What is remembered lives. Patricia, Sal, Mamie, Lori, Jay. What is remembered lives.
Harry, Agnes, Carolyn, Lynn, Bonnie.
What is remembered lives. We have invoked the spirit of our ancestors and other beloved dead. Let us hear with our hearts what they have to tell us.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing the words to Abide With Me on the screen. You may recognize the tune, but the words have been updated from the ones with which you may be familiar.
Please be seated. So one of the customs associated with All Saints and All Souls Days in the British Isles was the giving of soul cakes to groups of poor people, especially children who came to the door begging. This offering to the poor was sometimes done in the name of the dead who had lived in the house. This act of kindness by the living was believed to have a salutary effect on the souls of the dead in purgatory, easing their pain or shortening their stay there. Although the soul cakes were originally oat cakes, the term came to be applied to any treat, whether food or coins. So, in addition to our regular offering for the church and for organizations that we give to, there was also a note in the upcoming email this past week that you may have noticed to bring in food donations additionally. If you brought some of those in, we will also be collecting those at this time. So let us now make our soul cake offering, to the poor and to this congregation. And do we have a couple of folks who are willing to collect the offering to come forward and do that? And Jeremy's going to play some music for us. And so will you all once the offering has been collected, just wait for the song to be completed to bring up the offering. Do we have the baskets? Great.
For your gifts of generosity, give thanks.
Every loss we experience in life is a reminder of that ultimate loss to come, the loss of our very life, no matter how rich or poor we are, no matter how talented or inept, no matter how happy or miserable, we all must die. And this can be, for many of us, a terrifying realization. Perhaps it is the ultimate source of grief that lurks behind every other grieving.
Margaret, are you grieving?
over Golden Grove unleaving, leaves like the things of man you with your fresh thought care for. Can you? Ah, as the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder, by and by, nor spare a sigh. Though worlds of wanwood leave me a lie, and yet you will weep and know why. Now, no matter, child, the name, sorrow's springs are the same. Nor mouth had, no, nor mind expressed, what heart heard of, ghost guessed. It is the blight man was born for. It is Margaret you mourn for.
Please join me in a moment of silent meditation. For some, the terror of dying is relieved by the joy of living, a meaningful and generous life. Rachel Carson, the mother of the environmental movement in the United States, may have been one of these. She had achieved fame and fortune with her books on the sea when she discovered in her mid-50s that she had cancer. Yet she spent her last years writing Silent Spring, a book that would expose the lethal practices of the chemical industry and for which she would be both praised and pilloried. One morning in 1963, approaching the last autumn of her life, Carson sat with her best friend near the edge of the sea in Maine. There they watched a migration of monarch butterflies. Later, Rachel wrote to her friend,
For me, it was one of the loveliest of the summer hours, and all the details will remain in my memory. That blue sky, the sounds of wind in the spruces, and the surf on the rocks. The gulls busy with their foraging, alighting with deliberate grace. But most of all, I will remember the monarchs. That unhurried drift of one small winged form after another, each drawn by some invisible force. We talked a little about their history. Did they return? We thought not. For most, at least, this was the closing journey of their lives. But it occurred to me that afternoon, remembering that it had been a happy spectacle, that we had felt no sadness when we spoke of the fact that there would be no return. And rightly, for when any living thing has come to the end of its cycle, we accept that end as natural. For the monarch butterfly, that cycle is measured in a natural span of months. For ourselves, the measure is something else, the span of which we do not know. But the thought is the same. When that intangible cycle has run its course, it is natural and not unhappy thing that a life comes to its end. That is what those brightly fluttering bits of life taught me this morning. I found deep happiness in it, and I hope you do as well.
For some, the sting of death is eased by hope of resurrection. Ancient Egyptians, for example, called Osiris the resurrection and the life, and believed that, like him, after death they would be born again into eternal life. And Christians also see in the account of the resurrection of Jesus and in the words attributed to him in the Gospels a promise of their own eternal life. and call upon him to grant eternal rest to their beloved dead.
Many religions honor a deity of death, some of whom are also deities of rebirth.
The Celts honored two deities at Samhain. Olafare, the great father god, whose giant cauldron of plenty is never depleted, carries a club with which he both takes life from enemies and restores life to his own people. Morrigan is both the tribal mother goddess and the agent of death for enemies on the battlefield. On the Feast of Samhain, there is a ritual mating of these two deities.
The Morrigan was also honored as a triple goddess, maiden, mother, and crone. The virgin, the seed, the child, becomes the birth-giving creator mother, the fruitful plant, who in turn becomes the death-dealing crone, the withering life. This trinity, represented by the waxing moon, full moon, and waning moon, also reflected the stages of human life. By honoring all three, the ancients acknowledged the importance of each in the cycle of life.
For the Greeks, the crone member of the triple goddess was Hecate, a death goddess to whom were attributed magical powers of regeneration.
Perhaps the most formidable of crones is the Hindu Kali, creator, preserver, destroyer of the universe. She gives birth to the world, yet in her horrible hag incarnation, she dances at cremation grounds, gathering up the souls of the dead. In honoring Kali, we honor not just our final death, which is natural and inevitable, but every phase of darkness and dying that is part of our living.
The kingdom of Kali is within us, deep. The built-in destroyer, the savage goddess, wakes in the dark and takes away our sleep. She moves through the blood to poison gentleness. She keeps us from being what we long to be. Tenderness withers under her iron laws. We may hold her like a lunatic, but it is she, held down, who bloodies with her claws. How then to set her free, or come to terms with the volcano itself, the fierce power, erupting injuries, shrieking alarms? Kali among her skulls must have her hour. It is time for the invocation to atone for what we fear most and have not dared to face. Kali, the destroyer, cannot be overthrown. We must stay open-eyed in the terrible place. Every creation is born out of the dark. Every birth is bloody. Something gets torn. Kali is there to do her sovereign work, or else the living child will be stillborn. She cannot be cast out. She is here for good, nor battled to the end. Who wins at that war? She cannot be forgotten, jailed, or killed. Heaven must still be balanced against her. Out of destruction, she comes to wrest the juice from the cactus, its harsh spine, until she, the destroyer, has been blessed. There will be no child, no flower, and no wine. Kali, be with us. Violence, destruction, receive our homage. Help us to bring darkness into light, to lift out the pain, the anger, where it can be seen for what it is, the balance wheel for our vulnerable, aching love. Put the wild hunger where it belongs, within the act of creation, crude power that forges a balance between hate and love. Help us to be the always hopeful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness, nothing comes to birth, as without light, nothing flowers. Bear the roots in mind. You, the dark one, Kali, awesome power.
Just as there is a relationship between birth and death within our own lives, there is an important connection between the life of one generation and the lives of the ones before and the ones after. The cycle of individual life swirls out of the lives before and swirls into the lives after, forming one endless human DNA spiral. The 19th century anthropologist Leo Frobenius studied the burial rites of the planting folk of the tropical jungles of South and East Africa, and there he discovered a practice that illuminates and celebrates this connection.
When an old kinsman of the Sib dies, a cry of joy immediately fills the air. A banquet is arranged, during which the men and women discuss the qualities of the deceased, tell stories of his life, and speak with sorrow of the ills of old age to which he was subject in his last years. Somewhere in the neighborhood, preferably Shady Grove, a hollow has been dug in the earth, covered with a stone. It now is opened, and there within lies the bones of earlier times. These are pushed aside to make room for the new arrival. The corpse is carefully bedded in a particular posture, facing a certain way, and left to itself then for a certain season, with the grave again closed. But when enough time has passed for the flesh to have decayed, the old men of the Sib open the chamber again, climb down, take up the skull, carry it to the surface and into the farmstead, where it is cleaned, painted red, and after being hospitably served with grain and beer, placed in a special place along with the crania of other relatives. From now on, no spring will pass when the dead will not participate in the offerings of the planting time. No fall when he will not partake of the offerings of thanks brought in at a harvest. Moreover, the silent old fellow participates in everything that happens in the farmstead. If a leopard fells a woman, a farm boy is bitten by a snake, a plague strikes, or the blessing of rain is withheld, the relic is always brought into connection with the matter in some way. Should there be a fire, he is the first thing that's saved. When the puberty rites of the youngsters are to commence, it is the first to enjoy the festival of beer and porridge. If a young woman marries into the sib, the oldest member conducts her to the urn or shelf where the earthly remains of the past are preserved and bids her take from the head of the ancestor a few kernels of holy grain to eat. And this, indeed, is a highly significant custom, for when this young new vessel of the spirit of the sib becomes pregnant, the old people of the community watch to see what similarities will exist between the newly growing and the fated life.
So, we are not a people comfortable with harboring the skulls of grandparents on our bookshelves. And perhaps we often think ourselves somehow more intelligent than these simple folk who imagined their dead could have an effect on the life of the community, on the planting and harvesting, on the outcome of pregnancy and child rearing. How foolish. Or is it? If someone learns how to plant and harvest from a parent who learned it from their parent, is not the dead grandparent responsible, in part, for the crops? It is a common myth that maternal behavior is instinctive. Psychologists tell us it is learned from our own mothers and from other mothers in the community who learned it from their mothers. If a woman takes these lessons to heart, is not her grandmother responsible, in part, for the health of the baby? Are not the ancestors, blood kin, and other who have taught us the practical lessons and spiritual values by which we live to be thanked and honored? Many of us throw rice at newlyweds, perhaps not even aware that this is a blessing, a wish for fertility in the marriage. How much more powerful might it be for the couple to take the kernels of grain from the skulls of grandparents who perhaps gave them their earliest lessons in love? All right, we're too squeamish and law-abiding to use skulls. We might have to substitute a favorite mug or a bowl of the ancestor, but the ritual could still provide the powerful experience of continuity. Life goes on. This we know. What we perhaps need reminding of is that it is the same life, one life, of which we all have a little part.
We now call the names of our beloved newborn children and toddlers, whose new life is a blessing in our families and communities. We invite you to keep in mind the ancestors whose spirits enliven these children, and to respond after each set of 5 names by repeating the refrain, "Those who have died live on." Ocean Street, Ensley and Hazley Menaker, Foster Langle, Nora Taylor.
Those who have died live on. Rosie, Roman, Kylie, Maggie's great nieces and nephews 5. Those who have died live on. So I'd like to invite forward our servers. Is Don Parker here? Jeff Keim is offering to stand in for Don. So come on up, Jeff. Jeff and Cindy are going to be handing out apples that have been washed already. So you're welcome to wash them again, but they have been washed. These are from the same place that we had apples given out at the Samhain service about 10 days ago on a Saturday. And there were compliments on how delicious they were. So I hope these are just as delicious. And so as they pass them out around the sanctuary, Jeremy will be sharing some song with us.
Sing of living, sing of dying. Let them both be joined in one. Parts of an eternal process, like the ever-circling sun. From the freshness of each infant, giving hope in what is new, to the wisdom of the aged, deepened by a longer view. Open to a deeper loving, open to a gift of care, searching for a higher justice, helping others in despair. Through the tender bonds of living, in a more inclusive way, we are open more to suffering from the losses of each day.
Thank you for passing out of the apples. I hope that you all, when you bite into them, experience that new life. Now is the time of year for the harvesting of apples, a good time to remember the importance of this fruit in many myths and rituals. At harvest time, the Romans honored Pomona, goddess of fruit, and likely brought her with them to the Celtic countries, where they introduced the game of bobbing for apples in a tub of water at Samhain. The apples may have symbolized souls in the cauldron of regeneration.
The Greek mother goddess Hera is depicted offering an apple from the tree of life to her followers. For the Celts, the otherworld paradise was named Avalon, or Apple Island. The Scandinavians buried apples with their dead to help with passage to the next life.
An apple, when cut in half, reveals a 5-pointed star at its core. The Egyptians used this 5-pointed star in a circle as the hieroglyph for the underworld womb. Patricia's going to read a few lines to you all, and we've got some follow-up words that'll be coming up on the screen in a moment for us to repeat in unison after her words.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing the words to How Can I Keep From Singing on the screen. Again, you may recognize the tune, but the words have been updated from the ones with which you may be familiar.
The words are also in the order of service. Thank you so much for your participation in this little adventure together, a departure from our usual worship services. I hope to see you all in the hall there as we gather in fellowship after the service. I hope to hear any stories that you have of the folks that we called into being in this space. Thank you all.